All right. We are live. We are live. What's going on, everybody?
Do
So
it.
we're gonna wait a couple minutes before everybody gets in here and whatnot. But just so you guys know, I have a very special guest here, a good friend of mine, Misha. We are really, 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 really excited to have you in here. So Misha, guys, works on a cruise ship. We're not gonna disclose which ship he's actually working for in today's video, guys. So please don't ask. We're not gonna say it.
No,
But I'm probably gonna repeat it a couple times within between now and the next couple minutes. But Misha was on the ship during the pandemic when it first started. Your contract was when December? It started in December.
so I just started my second contract, and I started December 12th of
Mhm.
2019. So about 3 months before the shutdown finally happened.
And you were there until what, April? You said?
I was there until I left about April 12th.
Okay, yeah. So you were there. I mean, the shutdown happened around March. I mean, so like I said, we're gonna replay the story back for everybody. In a couple minutes here, we'll get started. Like I said, we're gonna wait for at least a couple more people to get in here. Probably at least 100 or so people to get in. Then we'll go ahead and get started with the live stream.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
of course, throughout the live, we'll answer questions and whatnot as well as we go through the story because I'm sure you have a lot to talk about. I don't know how fresh it is in your mind, but I want to go back and as far as we can and potentially as detailed as we can too, because I think this is something that people, at least in my mind, really want to know about, like the events that took place on cruise ships at the time. Because all we heard was that crew members are stranded and stuck on board the ship. Some people thought they were having the time of their life, while others thought they were having the worst time. And I definitely want to try to clear the air from somebody's own personal experience because I wasn't on board.
It's one of those moments where no matter how much time goes on, I will never forget it, and I can totally relive it like it was yesterday. So
Okay,
it's
we'll
all good.
definitely go over it. We'll definitely talk about it in today's episode, man. I'm excited. We got Claire in the house, long time favorite, one of my favorite people that watches my channel, supports the channel. Claire, I appreciate you saying hi from Dublin. I was just there. I know
That's
you're
my
going over there
girlfriend
pretty
for
soon.
everyone watching out there.
Yeah,
She had
yeah.
to be the first comment.
And I had just made the connection too because I had talked to Claire plenty of times before all of this, and I just realized that you guys are together.
Yep.
Like her
No,
and I have talked several times.
and you know what, Jay? I wouldn't be a fan of yours if it wasn't for her. She's the one that introduced me and said, "Hey, you have to watch this guy. He knows his stuff. He's very truthful. Listen to what he has to say." And I was like, "Oh, okay." She was right.
Man, I appreciate that, and thank you, Claire. I'm telling you, she's been a real supporter of the channel, man. And I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't until even after we had talked, even
Yeah.
when I saw her face, that I made that connection. I was like, oh, wait a minute, this is the Claire I've been talking to literally the entire time for like the past year. So I
Small world, man.
apologize, Claire. I didn't make that connection. Let's see, somebody else. They said I'm a crew member. I was stuck as well. Well, I mean, if you want to message me, man, we could definitely talk about it. I believe these stories, even if we have Misha here as well, I think these stories are very, very important for everybody
Yeah.
because it's not to bash the cruise line. It's not. I think like this is history in the making. And the more people understand that the cruise lines did the right thing, or maybe there were some changes that could have been made by personnel or anybody in particular that was on the ship at the time, I think it's something important that we should all take into consideration during this crazy time in the world, man, because we're going to be talking about this for probably the rest of our lives.
Honestly, I think you
You
said
know.
this when we were talking before. It's important to document the history of what
Hmm.
happened, right? And
Yep.
by eyewitness accounts, right? It's
Yep.
the best way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely agree. We're going to go ahead and get started in a couple minutes here. I just want to make sure a couple people get in that want to get in.
Yeah.
We're still early in the stream. We're 4 minutes out. So let's give it like one more minute, and then we can go ahead and talk. Like I said, guys, so Misha here does work for a cruise line. He was on the ship at the time of the pandemic when it started. So when the shutdown happened, and he was there until around April, and he was one of those people that were, however you want to put it, stuck on board the ship. So I think it's important that he goes back and talks about what the events took place and how it took place. And everything that went down. It's a lot of interesting information, guys, that I think everybody would really, really want to know about. So we're gonna start in about a minute here, and then we'll go from there.
Nice. Yeah. It's hard to believe it was almost a year ago now. My
That's
goodness.
crazy, right? That's crazy, man. I mean, it seems like unfortunately with everything going on, time is just we're literally going through like some type
We
of
were
time
so
machine right
naive
now,
at
man.
the time when we all thought, oh, this is going to be over real soon. And
Mhm.
oh, how times have changed, man. How they've
Yeah,
changed.
yeah, man. It's crazy. Let me see. I'm gonna answer a question real quick before we get started. Jay, did you have any issues when traveling to London with passengers not wearing masks? Not on the plane. I mean, every now and then you'll see walking around the airport or outside of the airport, people won't be wearing masks, but. Nothing that you wouldn't see really anywhere else. I mean, that's kind of like the standard these days. You're gonna see people that aren't wearing masks, people that are wearing masks. It's normal.
Yeah.
Let's see. Someone said, Peggy, Misha, it's very important to document history across the board. No pun intended. I get it.
I know who that is, and I didn't even realize that that was a pun. Look at that. Wow.
That is great. Oh, you said you were on the Apex. I had a friend of mine, hey, Andre, reach out to me. I have my email. Make sure you hit me up, man. We can definitely set something up. A friend of mine was in entertainment. She was on the Apex. So we should definitely talk. And I know a lot of crazy things going on the Apex, man. So give me a shout. All right, now let's go ahead and get into it. So, Misha, like you were saying, so we're gonna go ahead and start from the beginning. So you said you've been working on cruise ships for what, 2 contracts?
Yeah, so I started in late 2018, and I had just started my second contract in December of 2019.
Okay.
Okay, now,
And so just with everything going on, man. I know December. I'm sure when you got on that ship in December of 2019, the last thing you thought was that all of this was going to happen in March of 2020.
oh man, I was so excited. I just finished my first contract, and I was so excited to be asked to come back so
Hmm.
quickly. And I had to learn. I'm an actor and a singer on the boat, and I had to learn all the materials quickly. And I'll never forget. It was just a typical day, right?
Hmm.
And I always went to the crew bar to pick up my coffee before a show,
Hmm.
right? So I go to the crew bar, I get my latte, and I see on the news that there's a virus going on in China. And I
Hmm.
think to myself, man, that's awful. But I don't think anything of it. And I go and do the show. And my girlfriend, Claire, she's texting me all this stuff that's happening in China. And
Hmm.
to her credit, I was kind of, we're so busy on the boat. You know how it is. We work so many
Yeah,
hours.
yeah,
That I
of
kind of
course.
just said, that's great, honey, but, I'm working right now.
Hmm.
So, but then as the weeks went on in January, we started to get regulations on board that had never been done before, right?
So would it say anything that's out of the norm for, like, let's say, a norovirus?
No, it was basically really heavy sanitation practices. That
Okay, you know what I mean by norovirus, like GI, right? Like
yeah,
it wasn't anything near that. It was just a little bit more extreme than that.
no, just a little bit more extreme, a little bit more careful, right?
Okay.
And then they had some protocols coming in terms of talking to guests, keeping your distance, socially distant. And at that
Mhm.
time, it's amazing what's happened. No one knew what socially distant
Yeah,
meant in January.
nobody knew it would become the most hated word of of our time.
Yeah, and I remember they
Nobody
had
knew.
to explain it to us. We were like,
Mhm.
oh, I keep 6 feet apart, but how do you do that on a ship? That's very hard to do on a
You
ship
can't.
when there's 2,000
You
people
can't.
on board.
Mhm.
And then mid-March, the shutdown happens. And
Mhm.
I'll never forget the first 2 weeks. They treated us so well because when all the guests left, they opened up
Mhm.
all of the guest areas, the hot tubs, the pools, the bars. We had our own private island that we would go to. So the ship
Mhm.
would drop us off at 9 a.m. We'd all get off, and it would be crew all aboard back at 5:15, and we had a whole island with a beautiful beach all to ourselves.
So it's like the ultimate port day.
Yeah. Oh man, I'll never forget. One time I was looking out at that beautiful Bohemian water, and I said, "This is criminal. I cannot believe." Like I'm hearing all the stories back home, everything locking down, and
Hmm.
here we are, still getting paid to live in basically luxury and just
Yep.
party, right? So after the euphoria of those 2 weeks, right? Then the initial suspension was only for 2 weeks.
Hmm.
We closed down March 13th, and I believe it was till March 28th.
Hmm.
So March 28th rolls around, and they extend for another 2 weeks. And all of a sudden, things start getting taken away from us. We no longer can go to our private island because the Bohemian government has shut it down. They don't want
Hmm.
people getting off and on the boats. Our guest privileges are kind of being taken away. And then they announce that they're going to send us home by
Yeah.
air, right? And we all get our tickets. And I'll never forget this. I get a text, hey, emergency meeting at the theater. Be there right now. And so we go, and our
Hmm.
cruise director comes out and he says, guys, I don't know if you've heard, but Donald Trump has just announced that any crew from a ship cannot fly anywhere in the United States. And so we're all devastated. And I got to give our cruise director absolute 100% credit because he was so truthful and said, listen, guys, next week they might close down the ports, right? They might say we can't port in Orlando or Miami anymore. So if I were you, if you're American or Canadian, rent a car and get out of here.
Wow.
So
Wow.
at that moment, all of our crew that was from Europe or Asia starts breaking down. I remember people were crying because they couldn't get home. They can't get in a car and drive, right?
I
So
can imagine how hard that must be.
it was brutal. And the thing is, they didn't know at that time how long they were going to be stuck for. Thankfully, they all made it home. But I started looking for another fellow Canadian on board that might be close to my hometown. And I eventually was able to. And they said, okay, we're going to rent a car and we're going to drive from Miami all the way back to Toronto.
Oh no. No way.
And the
No
cruise
way.
line I was on, I have to give credit. They took really good care of us because they gave us money to rent the car, expenses. I had to cross a border, so they were like, "It's going to be all good. You'll have all the money you need." Right? But they did say to us, "Once you get off this boat, you cannot come back on because of COVID protocol." Right? And when you're on a ship, you're kind of you're in your own little world. You don't really know what's going on outside of the boat. So we had all these images in our mind that everything was going to be closed down and da 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 da. But thankfully, we got on that boat and we made it back to Toronto.
Wow.
Uh,
I'm sure that was a journey to say the least.
oh man,
Man.
I thought gas stations were going to be closed and nothing was going to be open, but it was much. It wasn't as bad as what we were hearing on the news, right?
Mhm.
But we made it though.
Yeah, man. Just before we continue on, guys that are just joining in, we got 116 people in here so far. If you guys wouldn't mind, hit that like button for me. That way, everybody else out there in the world that wants to watch, YouTube will kind of promote it to more people. It'll just show people that they're doing it, that the feed's doing a good job. So just make sure you hit that like button if you're enjoying so far. And guys, if you have questions, just go ahead and put them down in the comment in the feed. We'll get to them as soon as we can. We're gonna kind of go back and forth between talking about the story to answering questions for everybody as well. Now, dude, that's crazy that all of that happened, man. I can't
Yeah.
even imagine how hard that was. Even harder for the people that knew that there's no way they could obviously drive overseas to get where they need to be. I'm
Well, you know
assuming.
what?
Mhm,
I'll never forget. We had two British girls in our cast,
mhm.
and they immediately phoned their mom and dad, and they're bawling their eyes out because they're like, I don't know when I'm coming home, and everyone presumed because there was a stigma. It's not correct, but for some reason there was a stigma that the cruise ships were not clean and they were a breeding ground for COVID, even though
Yep.
they're one of the
Well,
safest places that you can be if it's a great cruise line, right?
hmm.
So we didn't know what was going to happen to us, and that was terrifying.
No, I can understand that, and that's unfortunately that's just mainstream media, and we all know that cruise lines have been in the public eye or media eye in a bad light for a very long time. So of
Yeah,
course this was kind of, especially everything that happened with the Diamond Princess, that was kind of like the icing on the cake, and it just kind of escalated the entire situation. So there was a Diamond Princess, and then there was a couple other princess ships, the Grand Princess, and then the Coral
yeah.
Princess, and all these things kept happening, and then it happened on other ships, and it just kept escalating the problem. So I think it was just one of those things that it started with the Diamond Princess as like the catalyst, because I believe at the time that was the first time ever that they had had that amount of cases in one particular place, being that on a
Yeah.
cruise ship, and everybody wanted to know why. So that's what ultimately ended up causing the bigger problem with the situation.
No, absolutely.
By the way, real quick, I know some people are, I don't know if you have like maybe a set of earphones or something. Some people are saying that you're getting a little bit of an echo on your
Oh,
end. I don't know what it is. Maybe you have like earphones or something you could put on, or if
huh.
you have anything. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Give me 1 sec.
Okay. Sorry, guys. I know a couple people have been asking about it, so we're gonna see if we can get that problem resolved. But while you guys are here, like I said, if you guys wouldn't mind hitting that like button, I'd appreciate it. And let me know if you guys are enjoying this so far. If you guys want me to continue bringing on guests like this to talk about things that happen on board the ship, or hopefully maybe I can bring on other people that are just affiliated with cruise lines. Who knows? Maybe I can get a cruise line CEO one of these days to do an interview. let me know in the comment section, guys, if you want me to keep doing stuff like this. I will really appreciate it, and I appreciate everybody that's here so far. So we'll see. We'll give Misha a second, and then hopefully we should be a little bit clearer as we come back, guys. But I appreciate everybody that's here on the live stream so far. Let's see. I have no question, but it was not traumatizing. It was hard, but once you set your mind, you just go. We had 5 or 6 crew members that. Oh wow, as you guys can see, yeah, I can imagine. I mean, we've all heard the horror stories of everything that happened aboard the ship. Man, let's see here. We got some more. I had to fly from what is that? France. So France to Barbados. I think that's what she's saying.
Wow.
Okay, so hopefully, guys, it's a little bit clearer now. Let's see. Oh, people said they're liking the streams. Okay, yeah. So then we'll keep bringing people on here, guys. I mean, I appreciate everybody that's here watching it. Like I said, I do think this is important. Yeah, of course the views are nice, but I do think it's important that the world, whoever's watching these videos, sees exactly what's going on. That way, they can actually get a real first-hand impression of what people went through during these times, and that everybody wasn't spoiled, but also at the same time, everybody also wasn't having the most horrible time of their lives either.
Yeah.
So I will continue featuring guests. So yeah, man. I mean, I'm assuming that after this, after you got home, it was a long way for you to get back home, which I I can't imagine. So wait, but the cruise line basically, the people that were in charge. So you're saying they pretty much asked you to like just if you wanted to, you could just forget about your contract and get off the ship now while you have the chance. Is that that's how it went down?
Basically, yeah, it's one of those situations where um, obviously it's an extreme situation.
Hmm.
So they said that the contract is now terminated in
Hmm.
regards to whatever you need,
Hmm.
right? So I just thank them that they took care of us and
Hmm.
made sure that we had all the necessities to get home. And they told us when we did get home to make sure that we contact them that everything was safe. And
Okay.
thankfully it was. I hear the echo now too.
I mean, a lot of people are saying that it's better now.
Okay, good.
But no, I can imagine. I mean, honestly, I think it was just nice of them to do that. I've been with some companies, man, where it's like stick to the contract, stick to the contract, just because they're liable to certain degrees. But I appreciate the fact that being that it was a real life situation and nobody really knew what was going on at the time,
Yeah.
that they gave at least gave you guys the option to say, hey, look, we don't know what's going on, but if there's a door, here you guys go. We'll understand. Just let us know you got home safe, and we can deal with the repercussions and whatever is going to come out of it later. I
I
think
know
that.
the people that decided to stay,
Mhm.
uh, they signed new contracts, right? But everyone
Okay.
who left, they were on their own. So you were still on a contract even if you decided to stay during the pandemic.
Mhm.
So they just drew up new ones. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean, so I guess for some people it worked out better than the others.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hold on, real quick. I know. See, it's weird. Some people are saying that they're still getting an echo. Some people aren't. Some people are saying it's not that bad. They can understand every word. Guys, if you can
Okay.
comment, if you're not hearing every loud and clear, no problem. I mean, for the majority, I can see a lot of people are saying they hear it just fine. I mean, if I apologize, guys, if there's an echo, but if you can hear, um, I guess we'll just have to kind of deal with it. Maybe we can just work on and see what goes on for next time. I apologize, guys, but hopefully you can at least hear exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
We'll monitor it if it gets worse or whatever the case is. But like I said, for the most part, I can see people are saying there's an echo, but they can hear you still. They can still hear every word you're saying.
Okay.
Okay, they're saying they can still understand. So we'll just have to run with it today. But just because of everything going on, man, I do think it's I appreciate you first of all for coming on here because I know of course there are obviously going to be probably people watching that know who you are, know what cruise line you're working with. But I mean, yeah, the fact that you're doing this, it goes a long way because I think, like I said, it's something that needs to be heard throughout the industry because there's so much secretive stuff that has gone on, has still been going on. And I'm not saying the cruise industry is wrong or any particular cruise line is wrong, but I think this stuff needs to be put out there. That way people can have clarity during times like this.
Oh, for sure.
You know, because like I told you earlier before we started this stream, man, there were people that were saying, well, why are the crew members complaining? They have everything they've ever wanted. They get to go to their private islands. But I would also say all the time that I know I get it, you had your private island, but you also understand that there were people out there, crew members on different trips for different lines, that weren't as fortunate as you were, that were struggling.
Yeah, it's one of those things where the first 2 weeks it was a euphoria, like I said. But
Hmm.
I think what people don't understand, when you don't know if you're going to be stuck and you
Hmm.
don't know how long for, right? That becomes a deal. And we all
Yeah,
know on ships, communication is already really, really hard,
of course.
right?
Yeah,
So when you
yeah, it's
don't know
expensive.
if, yeah, if you don't know if you can leave, if you
Mhm.
don't know when you're going to see your loved ones, if you
Mhm.
really can't communicate with them and you can't get off at a port to get decent Wi-Fi, it becomes very hard.
Yeah, we'll definitely. So later on in the stream, man, we definitely got to talk about the future of crew members working on ships, specifically talking about the no shore leave and man, because I have my views on it, man. I definitely want to get your take on the situation as well. But so, like I was saying, I'm sure after you got home, you still continued to hear from potentially, I guess, your crew members that were on your ship, and you probably heard from people that were on other ships, right? Were
Yeah.
they going through a similar situation, or you as you were, or did you hear that people were going through stuff that was worse than what you were going through?
Honestly, over time, a lot of these stories have kind of become myth because I heard
Of
people
course.
were going through the similar things, similar
Hmm.
procedures, right? And
Hmm.
other people were going through, like, we have to quarantine people. You can't leave their cabin. Some people I heard had curfews. By like 7 p.m., they had to be in their crew cabin. That didn't happen on our ship, thank goodness. But
Hmm.
yeah, so it was different for everyone. But thankfully, we never had that. And if it did happen, I got off
Hmm.
just in time. Yeah. Yeah, I can
Okay,
see.
that's good to hear. All right, look, so real quick, we got a super chat from, is it, how do you pronounce it? Is it Camila Haj? $100 super chat. Thank you so much. Wow. That's I can't even put that into words, man. How much I
Nice.
appreciate that. That thank you for looking out for the crew members. Of course, I mean, I believe that that's probably the biggest reward, honestly, is looking out for the people that make the experience on board cruise ships happen in the first place. So thank you so much. I hope I'm saying it right, Camilla Hodge. Thank you so much. So uh, Misha, can you hear me?
Yep.
Connection issue. Okay, cool. I know the connection was going in and out here and there. You still hear me?
Yep. Gotcha, man.
Okay, here. Sorry guys. I
International
know I know
Wi-Fi.
the Wi-Fi isn't the greatest. Airbnb Wi-Fi. What are you gonna do? I mean, yeah. I mean, it is what it is. But we gotta make it work. Yep. So just with everything going on right now, can you hear me?
Yep. Gotcha.
Let's see here. You still, Misha? You there?
Yeah, I got you, man.
All right, cool. So with gotcha. So with everything going on now, with the industry, would you still gladly go back for another contract?
You know what? I was telling my girlfriend I always wanted to do at least one more because it's a great job, right? And the pros far outweigh the cons.
Mm-hmm.
It would all depend on what their rules are. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Now I've heard rumblings, right? Because we still get emails from the cruise
Mm-hmm.
line that one of the rules might be no port leave, so you can't get off the boat. Um, Now that would be really, really hard
Mm-hmm.
because getting off the ship, I mean, that's where you regroup, you refocus, so you can get back on the boat
Mm-hmm.
and do what you got to do again. Um,
Okay.
and also, one thing for me is not having guests visit you. If you can't have guests come on board to visit you for 7, 8 months, that's real, real hard. Now I know a lot of crew members are already used to that,
Mm-hmm.
but I am not. So I would have to weigh the pros to the cons. Never
Mm-hmm.
say never, but once they do set sail, okay, here, this is what you can't and cannot do, and I'd go from there.
Yeah, I agree. Here, real quick, we're gonna answer a question. Let's see. We got a question for Misha. Have you been involved with a ship in dry dock and ongoing refit or undergoing refit?
I have not been on board during a dry dock. I've always wanted to. I've heard amazing stories from the crew because it goes down to what they call a skeleton crew. So
Mm-hmm.
it's only a couple of people living on this luxury cruise. So I hear like not only do you work hard and you do all the kind of jobs that you can't do while you're sailing. You
Mm-hmm.
know, being a performer, right? They clean the theater. They look after the equipment,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. I hear though it's quite a time though. So I would love to do it, but no, to answer, I've never
I've
done it.
heard the
No,
same, man. I've never been on board for any of that, man. I'm sure it's definitely something you probably don't want to miss.
no, I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
Somebody said, "Who's that talking?" It's a crew member. All right, Misha works for a cruise line, talking about his experience on the ship during the pandemic. Now, just getting back to life, I guess the future of cruising for crew members. I know the big deal for, again, a deal breaker would definitely be, of course, the fact that you can't bring guests on board, but also shore leave. How do you feel about that?
Ah, yeah, the shore leave. You know, as a performer, we mainly work at night,
Hmm.
so we have our days off.
Hmm.
So I'm the kind of person that I like my own things, and I like to be able to buy things at Target or Walmart
Yep.
that I can use. So
Of course.
if we didn't have that shore leave, I think that'd be hard for a lot of people.
I agree.
I'm sure that would be a major turnoff for people to come back,
Hmm.
because then you're controlled in a way that is just it would be unbearable for certain people.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
that would be a huge con for me. Not a deal breaker. It would depend on other circumstances, but that would
Hmm.
be. I know speaking to some of my other fellow crew members that they've even said if that's the case, I can't come back.
Yeah. Okay, so even so, let's talk about an even more potentially worse question. No crew bar. How would you feel about that?
Okay, so that's cool with me because I'm not a big
Okay.
drinker anyway, right?
Oh, I don't mind the. I guess
The
it's a
occasional Corona.
bad time for this one, but yeah, I do enjoy a drink, man.
Now, for me, like I know, like for if you don't
Mhm.
know, I mean, for the crew, the drinks are very, very inexpensive,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, they
So
add
if
up. They add up.
oh man, they do. But if you do
Yeah.
like to drink, it is the place to be. Thankfully for me, I'm not a big drinker, so as long as
Mhm.
they kept selling coffee, or you could get coffee in maybe a guest area, that'd be
Mhm.
okay for me.
Yeah.
So I could do it, but I know a lot of crew members wouldn't be able to.
Well, the way I see it, just from a mental standpoint, I know for a lot of people, even the ones that don't drink as much, it's still a place to kind of get together and mingle after that long day of work.
Yeah,
And I believe that, even when I was at the crew bar too, there were always people there that didn't really drink. Some people just came there to hang out with their friends after a long day's work because that was one of the few places that we could go to.
no,
And
totally.
personally, I do believe like outside of maybe like the party nights that we get, the crew parties and whatnot, I do believe it was pretty much the only option. So I think if that gets taken away, it's going to have a overall like just negative effect on the morale of the crew members on board the ship, whether they drink or not.
Oh, absolutely. Like especially being a performer after a
Hmm.
show, the last thing I would want to do is go to my cabin and then just fall asleep. I would need to de-stress. So
Yeah.
I would go to the crew bar just to talk to people, right?
Hmm.
So I totally hear where you're coming from. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that's the way I look at it, man. I just think that it would definitely. I mean, because also people aren't gonna stop getting together. And the way I look at what's going on, what would go on the ship, is the same thing I look at what's going on in the world. I get people are worried about the health and the pandemic, and I don't want to get too much into it. But I also believe that we are people that want to be around other people. We're social beings.
Yeah.
And nobody is going to want to 100% stay by themselves 24/7 outside of being social. Nobody's gonna want to just go to work and that's the only time they're with other people and then go to bed. There is nobody that's gonna be okay with that. So I
Yeah.
think if that's the case, you're not gonna if it continued down that path, you wouldn't get the overall quality of workers that you would want on board. The overall environment of the people that make the cruise experience what it is would probably go down in the long run for the cruise lines. So I think that's probably the downside of all of it. I mean, I wouldn't say it's just the crew bar, but I think it's a big factor. I mean, it's as far as the social environment. Now, I guess for you, somebody put in the comment section, well, if it's not the gym, what if not the crew bar, what about the gym? Would you?
Okay, so that would be a huge one for me
Hmm.
because as a performer, your body is your instrument, right?
Hmm.
And you got to take care of it. So
Yeah.
you know what? I can't even sugarcoat it. If there was no gym, no crew gym, no guest gym,
Hmm.
you cannot use it at all. I can't
You're
go.
out. That's the
No,
deal
I'm out.
breaker for you.
That is a deal. That
No, same
and
same here.
guests can't sail. If my girlfriend can't visit me and I can't use the gym, no,
Yeah.
no, that's
I
hard.
100% agree.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be a challenge, a roadblock for the cruise lines ahead if they decide to go that route. Personally, I do believe it. All right, guys, real quick. By the way, if you're just joining in or if you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button. Let YouTube know that we're doing a pretty decent job, and we're gonna go ahead and keep going. We're halfway through. We're gonna go ahead and go for another 30 minutes. Guys, get your questions in. We're gonna start just kind of streamlining the questions. We'll talk about a
Yes.
couple topics here and there, then we'll go from there. But how you feeling so far, Misha? I appreciate you coming in here, by the way, man. I
I'm
think you're
doing
loving
good,
this.
man. This is fun. This is fun. It's funny.
Good.
I feel like I'm getting some things off my chest for some reason. I don't know why,
Yeah,
but
honestly, I think that's why I probably post as much as I do. Because, you've seen my content, man. I mean, I get
yeah,
it. Like, I give information, but at the same time, I do weigh my opinion on it. A lot of people don't like it. Well, not a lot, but there are some people out there that don't like it. But, I mean, this to me is also, I guess, an opportunity for me to kind of give content to people, give them value, but also for me to kind of relieve what's on my mind as well. Because during this pandemic, we can't talk to the people that we want to talk to. So it's definitely a cool way to do it.
that's true, man. Yeah.
But we're gonna go ahead. Somebody said from Bob Larson, question: were there any guest entertainers on board when the shutdown came, and if so, what did they do with them? That's a good question.
Yeah, actually, there were. I remember there was a guitarist and a singer that they were there quite often doing contracts. And what they would do when the crew kind of took over the guest areas where the bar, they
Mhm.
would play just like guests were on board and they would come and entertain the crew. But
Wow. Okay.
yeah, they still had to keep the music clean and sing
Mhm.
specific songs that the cruise ship wanted.
Yeah.
But they did their job like guests were there, but they would do it for just the crew. But it became a little bit more, a little bit more applause. People would give them
See,
tips, right?
now, exactly, man. That's amazing. When I had heard about that going on, I did post in one of my videos. I said that things could potentially be problematic in the long run for the crew being able to get the guest experiences, just for
Yeah,
the fact of nobody knew what this virus was at the time. But I still think that it is so amazing to see that there are crew members that would have never otherwise been able to see parts of the ship, that would have never otherwise been able to see certain parts of entertainment, that actually got a chance to be in those moments and be able to do stuff on the ship that they couldn't do, be able to see shows that they couldn't do. Because even when I was working on board the ship, you got people that worked in the engine room, people that worked in the galley, that for a fact they never really got to see the light of day. They never got to experience all the fun stuff there was to do on board. So I remember
yeah.
vividly talking about that in my video, saying that I think first of all it's great that the cruise lines are giving the crew members an opportunity to kind of see what the ship has to offer instead of just working on it. I think that's amazing.
I actually discovered some places that I didn't even know existed.
See, that's
And
amazing.
during the first 2 weeks of that shutdown, that's when I got to know other people outside of my cast
Hmm.
the most, right? So
Hmm.
I hear you there.
That is great. And by the way, I forgot to just put her up here, but it was actually your girlfriend that was asking if you were willing to still work on the cruise ship if you didn't have a gym.
Is
I
that
guess she
her?
knows you. Yeah, she knows you pretty well, man.
Well, I answered that question, and no, I would not be able to go if there is
Hmm.
no gym. But you know what? I'll be honest. For a lot of performers, they would say the same thing. Like
Yeah.
I know it. I know it. That would be a deal breaker. So
No,
I'm not
I
just
agree.
speaking for myself. Yeah.
Like given, I know I'm pretty skinny now, man, because I've been running around, traveling all over the world and whatnot, man. But I mean, I'm a professional breakdancer and acrobat, so I needed at least somewhere to practice to spin on my head a little bit, man.
Oh,
So
for sure.
if I didn't have that, man, I don't know if that'd be a deal breaker for me as well. I couldn't just perform, eat, drink, and clock out. I couldn't do it. Well,
No, you need some kind
for a
of,
little while. For a
yeah.
little while, I might be down for that. All right, let's see. Somebody said, as a performer, we only work at night. Dude, we dancers did duties around the clock. Singers got away from it all. What's your take on that? How you
You
feel
know
about
what?
that one?
So I was an actor and a singer. I was not a dancer. You don't want to see me dance. Um, and for the most part, I would say, entertainers are treated very well on the ship. I would
Yeah.
sometimes have rehearsals during the day to rehearse scenes and
Mhm.
stuff and certain numbers, but because I had no high end kind of choreography, I would just go in,
Mhm.
do the scene, sing the song, and it was basically my own homework. So a lot of my rehearsals were just maybe 5, 10 minutes, unless we were running the whole show, right?
Yeah.
So there is some truth in that.
Well, I've always been pretty transparent. Like, so when I did my full contract with NCL, I was working maybe 2 days a week. I
Yeah.
wasn't working that much at all. I mean, it gave me an opportunity to learn a lot, which is inevitably ended up gave me the incentive and the ability to start this channel, right? But also, I think people when they hear that, you'll see on the ship, especially for the entertainers, the other departments will say that you're living the good life, and they think that you've just always been kind of fed with a silver spoon your whole life, and they don't understand the work that it takes to get where we are. And
No.
I tell people all the time, if they knew how much Uber I've done, how many times I've been homeless, living in my car, and they don't understand the bill to even get to the point where you have the luxuries that are available on the ship. So
No, totally.
that's something that I wish was a little bit more understood. I mean, other countries they hear you're American, and that's another topic or from like a first world country, and they think you've had everything you've ever wanted, which is not the case. Not by a long shot. America alone, I don't care what anybody says, America is a third world country wearing a Gucci belt. That's exactly what it is. Not everybody there is rich. So
Oh
I
man.
wish the other nationalities on board would know that. If for those of you that are watching that have not worked on a cruise ship, that happens. People feel a certain way about somebody just because of where they're from and with their department. It's like high school. If you're not part of there's the cool kids, there's the nerdy kids, it's like that. All walks of life on board the ship.
Man,
So
and honestly,
yeah.
just because a performer might have it great on a ship, being an artist when you're outside of a ship is really, really hard, especially with this pandemic, right?
Oh yeah.
Any art, like theaters are shut down right now. We cannot perform. So for someone to say, "Oh, you guys have it easy as an artist,"
I hope they realize
no,
now. I hope they do. Broadway is shut down. Cirque du Soleil
yeah,
just went bankrupt. Now, honestly, and I'm very transparent. Thankfully with my channel I'm able to earn pretty much a living doing this. But had it not been for YouTube, I don't know what I'd be doing.
oh yeah,
Because my
yeah,
entertainment, I had a ton of entertainment gigs before all of this happened, and all of it just literally just disappeared. It would evaporate, And honestly, I'm thankful for it, man. I really am. But
yeah.
enough of that about that. Let's go ahead and get to another question. Let's see. How much off-duty fraternizing is permitted between crew members and guests, if any? Now, I'll let you take this one first, and then I'll go ahead and weigh my opinion on it.
Well, there's a difference between how much occurs and what you're actually supposed to do.
Yeah.
That's two very, very different
Yeah.
things. The rule is there's supposed to be none,
Mhm.
zero. And every cruise line though is a bit has a more of a tolerance level. The one I was on, absolutely zero, and rightfully so, honestly, because that can lead to a lot of bad things. So to answer your question, uh, no, it's not allowed, but people do it.
Yeah, technically it's not allowed. Like, so when I was working for
Yeah.
NCL, a lot of the people, man, they would wait till we got on like the islands. Like, for example, our main port was Bermuda. We'd be there for about 3 days. So people would all make all their connects here and there, and then they would do their dirty work, I guess you could say their dirty work, over in the islands.
Yeah. Oh, did we lose Jay? It's got that Airbnb Wi-Fi. Oh, there he is. He's coming back.
All right, I'm back.
There you go.
All right, cool. Did you hear what I said?
I thought repeat that last part again.
Oh, I was just saying on board the ship, the crew members would make their connections and whatnot, and then they would do all their dirty work on the islands. That way they didn't get caught by anybody.
Yeah.
Now it is frowned upon. I'll give you that. Like one of my moderators, Scott, he did say you don't. It's not worth a lawsuit or being fired. I 100% agree.
Yeah.
There are plenty of fish on the ship. I can guarantee you. No. If you don't like what's there, give it a week. There's gonna be a brand new batch of fresh meat on there. I can tell you that.
Crew
So
members come and go all the time.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and try to chase back. I think I missed a couple of these. I'm trying to trace back and get some of these questions out. Sorry, guys. Let's see. Jay's group therapy in session, Misha. That's funny. By the way, guys, if you haven't already, we got 100 and almost 90 people, almost 190 people, guys. Hit that like button. So let's see, Misha, as Canadian, how did you get hired on the ship? And was there another Canadian on your ship, or were there other Canadians? Because I know it's rare.
Okay. Well, I'll answer the second part first. There's not a lot of Canadians, not on the ship I worked on. Very few of us. And even if there were, I'm from Toronto. They'd all be from British Columbia or Manitoba, so I wouldn't have anything in common with them. Our country is so big. But you're from Vancouver? I've never been there. I don't know. It's a 5-hour flight for me. And to answer your first question, so I auditioned to be on this cruise ship in Toronto. And I did, the audition was very, very thorough. It was about half an hour long. And it was the best audition I've ever gone to in my life. I mean, I went through all of my materials. I did about 4 or 5 scenes, sang about 2 or 3 different songs. They made me read for a bunch of different characters. And then a month and a half went by, and I assumed, as all actors go through, that I did not get it. And then eventually I got the phone call that they wanted to hire me for a contract. And so I did all my medicals and paperwork, and I got on. And that was it. Yeah.
Okay, nice. All right, we got another one here. Somebody said, what made you decide to perform on a cruise ship, and where did you sing and act before that?
So basically, what made me decide to go on a cruise ship was just I needed a job. I had just come back. I graduated from a master's degree in acting from the University of Houston.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
look, I feel I'm not gonna lie to you. I feel dumb now, man. I didn't go to college, man. I don't know what to tell you on that one.
You know what? A degree in acting, I'll be honest, it doesn't mean anything. It's just something kind of nice to talk about.
No, I understand, man. I have I'm somebody that believes, first of all, school is not for everyone.
Yeah.
College, I mean, like secondary, but also in that regard too, I have plenty of friends that work in entertainment, man. They got their arts degrees and stuff. I'm like, man, as far as I'm concerned, unless you plan on teaching in the near future, it's not really necessary. You're kind of wasting some years.
That's why I went.
No offense, but I hope you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. My main reasoning for going was because I'd love to be a professor at a university teaching acting at some point.
Okay,
but I didn't answer.
That makes sense.
Question? I didn't answer it. What did I
Hold on, let me go
before?
back. Yeah, what did you perform before? It said what made you decide to perform on a cruise ship, and well, obviously the monies. And where did you sing and act before that?
Yeah, the cruise ship was just I got the job. There was no interest there initially, but I did end up loving it. Where did I sing and act before? Right before then, I acted at Hope College Theater in Michigan. I did a lot of shows in Toronto, the Texas Shakespeare Festival, in Houston, doing a lot of Shakespeare, a lot of musicals. I've done productions like Merchant of Venice, Macbeth, Glengarry Glen Ross, a lot of musicals like Sweeney Todd, Last 5 Years.
No way.
Like that. And that's about it.
That's amazing. All right, guys, we got to get him out of here. His resume is nicer than mine. Let's get him out of here, guys. Let's end the call.
I'll send my resume later.
I'm joking. All right, so somebody got a question about cruising. What do you think will happen long term with cruising? Where do you see cruising long term, like maybe within the next 10 years or so? You think it'll bounce back to normal?
I think it will eventually bounce back to normal, but I have to be honest. I think we could start sailing by the end of this year, perhaps with a ton of rules and regulations and restrictions. But I think a lot of those rules and regulations, especially with sanitation, are going to be in place now forever. The cruising industry has changed. It's not going to go back to quite the normal that we knew. And it actually, in a couple of years, it might all be for the better, right?
No, I 100% agree.
Yeah, a lot of these sanitation practices, the cruise line I worked on was very, very good and were in place already. But I just think it's going to be everywhere. But I think maybe by the end of this year, we'll see some cruises going. But for a normal, it's going to be a new normal. And I don't know when that's going to be.
God, I hate hearing that.
I know, but it's
The social distance, the new normal. We're all tired of hearing it, man. But it's the truth. But
oh
I do think that things will probably end up being better after all of this is over with.
yeah,
Personally,
yeah,
I really do. I guess we'll just have to just kind of be patient and see what happens.
I
But
agree.
I think it's kind of one of those things where we're gonna have to just kind of ride the wave and see because I mean, so first of all, do you have a projection? When do you think cruise is gonna start back up? In your honest opinion?
In my very honest opinion, every cruise line is going to be different, right?
Mhm.
It's not all just going to miraculously, hey, we're all starting, right? I
Yeah,
think
no, of
some
course
cruise
not.
lines are going to watch what other cruise lines do,
Hmm.
but my guesstimation would be January of 2022. Where I think we're
Oh
a year
wow,
away.
okay,
We're a year away.
you think so?
Yeah, yeah,
And I say all the time, there was another guy, another cruise commentator traveling with Bruce. He was one of the first people to say that. And he
yeah.
was met with a lot of blowback, man. People were angry. How dare you? Where do you get your knowledge from? And I think people are slowly realizing at this point, you can't rule anything out. Never. It's just you can't take everything for face value. You can't take everything you're told. You got to question everything and look at the facts that are presented, not just what you're told. And even if there are fact stuff that makes sense, if things are looking good for cruising, right, you still got to look a little bit deeper. Like people will
Yeah.
see me as a negative, but I believe in putting out the reality, right? If Royal Caribbean comes out and says, well, we're going to cruise in 3 months, I'm going to say, okay, but to what island? How are you going to get the crew back? What are they going to eat? How are you going to get the supplies back on the ship? You got to look at these things. It's not being negative, it's being realistic to the possibilities. But also, I say it in the sense that, okay, everybody has to understand that we can't get overly optimistic because you're just setting yourself up to be let down later on. Worst case scenario, I end up being wrong and looking like a fool. I want to be proven right.
That's kind of what I've learned too. Like it keeps getting pushed back and back. So now I'm thinking, my mantra is, okay, if we can't get things together on land, really, how can we get onto
Yeah.
a ship with an enclosed space with 2,000 people and do that
Hmm.
safely? Once we get things under control on land, then we can cruise safely. That's kind of my
I
mantra,
agree.
right? And
I
hopefully
agree.
that happens sooner rather than later because I'd love to go back and do at least one more contract. But
Hmm.
I'm being now, before I was optimistic, now I'm an optimistic realist, I call it.
I think that's how it should be. I'm an optimist. I'm probably an overly confident guy. Like there's one thing I could say about myself that a lot of people see me as negative because of the channel, but people got to understand. I've taken the leap to become a professional breakdancer, to become an entertainer, to start this YouTube channel. Anybody that does stuff like this
Yeah.
with hopes of maybe making it, you have to be a little bit of optimist, a little somebody that is a little bit overly optimistic in order to make it happen. And I'm not trying to like toot my own horn, man, but it's like to see what I built, to be able to have stuff like this, to have a platform like this. Honestly, I'm grateful for it.
Yeah.
But it took me creating something from nothing and believing in that I could do it for it to happen. So it's not just being negative; it's just being realistic. I look at the facts, but I also look at the fact that anything is possible. But also, and when good things can happen, bad things can also happen as well. So, we can be optimistic about the industry. I'm optimistic about cruising happening in places like Mexico. I believe that's going to happen before we see a cruise ship sailing out of Florida, to
Oh,
be honest with
absolutely.
you.
Like their measures, they're already letting people in. They don't have to do a quarantine or anything when they go into Mexico.
Hmm.
So I could totally see that happening. I mean, we all
Yeah,
want it to come sooner rather than later, but it's just look at the world is worse off now than it was last March. So
yeah,
how can it really start back up right now?
yeah. And
Nah.
I say that all the time.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out how we're going to go back to normal from all of this,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. What is going to be normal from here?
Yeah. I
We got a
agree,
lot of
man.
lives that are changed forever. But man, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole. I could talk about this stuff all day. So we're gonna go over to the next question. Somebody said, where was the worst storm you sailed in, and how did you cope with pitching and rolling, especially in performing? Like, so basically, did you ever do a show during rocky seas? I know I have.
Man, yes, you hear about those things. Some
Mhm.
the people I would feel bad for the most are the dancers. You
Tell me
would have
about
to
it.
do a jump in the air and you could hit a wave and the ship
Hmm.
goes right, and you
Yeah.
literally could land and break an ankle or something. So I was never on
Mm-hmm.
board when they had to cancel a show because of the amount of waves and just the instability of it.
Mm-hmm.
But there were some nights when I would just be standing on stage doing a scene, just acting, and I would literally lose my balance and almost fall over. It doesn't happen as often as people think, but it
Mm-hmm.
is actually a deal. Yeah, you do have to, and you just adjust and you deal with it.
Yeah, I agree, man. I don't know. Sometimes I kind of thought of it as a challenge. I'm a breakdancer and acrobat, you know.
So much
People
harder.
people would freak out because I'd be in the show and it's like everybody say, okay, well, we're gonna do a Plan B show, a rainy show, you know, and I still go out there do my backflips and stuff like nothing happened. I said, you know, like for me, I kind of see it as a challenge. Now, there was one time, man, I kind of shot myself in the foot, man, and rolled my ankle, but you know, it is what it is. It's kind of one of those things where you got to be adaptable, especially working on a shift. That's the one thing, man. I mean, I have this belief overall that it's a quote from Stephen Hawking's, man, and it's that intelligence is the ability to adapt, and I
Yeah,
kind of run with that. Intelligence is not how many books you've read, what kind of piece of paper you have. It's your ability to adapt and to change and in certain situations and you know defeat adversity or just overcome it. So I
and
look at it from
also,
that standpoint.
when you're doing these shows over and over again, I mean, we were doing about sometimes 11 shows a week, right?
Mhm.
So when you're in rocky seas, it kind of it's a nice challenge to
Mhm.
overcome, and it makes you perform even better. It helps it from getting stale, actually, because
Yeah.
you have
Oh
something to
yeah. Oh yeah.
overcome.
You got to kind of make adjustments as you go. So
Totally.
trust me, I know. All right, let's keep on going with the questions. Let's see. Do we think the prices will improve? Given the lines will be capped by head court, it makes me feel like there will be empty cabins, less emphasis on single supplement. Yeah, I think it's inevitable at this point.
Yeah.
Cruise lines, you got to think they've lost billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars by the time all this is over with. Yeah, they're gonna have to at some point, even if it's not at the beginning, they're gonna have to slowly up the price. I think it's coming in the near future. It
Yeah.
may not be that much, and who knows, maybe it may not be affecting the consumer directly, but at some point it's gonna get you. If it's not with the direct booking price, it's gonna be with the drinks. If it's not with the drinks, it's gonna be with the excursions. If not with the excursion, it's gonna be a fee to play bingo on C day one. That's how, you know what I mean. It's gonna be that way. I can definitely see that.
They got
So
to
it's
protect the
gonna
bottom
happen at
line.
some point.
Yeah,
Yeah, which I understand. It's business at the end of the day. What are you gonna do?
absolutely.
So let's see. What was the last Carnival cruise ship left out of Long Beach? Which one was that? I don't remember what ship was was
Carnival
was it
cruise?
that left out of Long Beach. A
I have no
Carnival
idea.
cruise ship. I don't know. Sorry. I mean, I have the knowledge on this stuff, but not that much. I don't know which ship was in every single port. I apologize on that one.
Someone will look that up.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Oh, here's a good one. You think the situation, everything that's going on, do you think the situation is going to reflect on salaries long term? With all these up and coming expenses for the companies, I don't see them staying the same. So basically, paying the performers and employees or contractors less.
Well, I can already tell you firsthand. I mean, I've received emails already to not look for raises.
Hmm.
Your salary will not go down for what you were at,
Hmm.
but they've lost so much money, and they made it clear that once we're all back, there's going to be no raises, and we're going to see how it goes. So that's already been known that it would pretty much go back uh, with the same pay scale. Yeah,
Okay, yeah, I agree. I mean, I'd be very, very surprised if they're offering raises. I don't think necessarily we'll see pay cuts. If anything, they probably just won't. They'll hire maybe less people back for certain roles. We might
yeah,
see a department in entertainment, a theater go dark, or with less shows or something of that nature. But I think they'll probably keep it the same because they already know that people are expecting to come back because they're probably going to bring in the returners, people that already had contracts, as opposed to bringing on new people. And
yeah,
a lot of people aren't going to be willing to accept a pay cut. There's always the idea of finding new people, but with all the changes that are coming, it would overall hurt the cruise ships and the industry if they were to just say, you know what, it's either you take the pay cut or you don't come back. That means you got to train brand new people that not only don't know the lifestyle on board the ship, but they also got to get acclimated to the new health and safety protocols on board.
yeah. They'll want people that have that experience because it's going to be a
Yeah,
whole new training
yeah.
process.
Exactly. All right. Yep, guys. Oh, if you're here, please hit that like button. We're trying to get to 200 likes. We got 162 so far, guys, and we got almost 200 people in the house. Hit that like button if you haven't already, guys. We want to get to 200 likes before we get out of here. Speaking of getting out of here, we got 5 more minutes, guys. So we're gonna talk a little bit more. Get your questions in because We're not going to go over too far today, guys. I got to get out of here. And Misha, I don't want to keep him too long. He's probably got to call his girlfriend after this. And so we'll stay here for about 5 more minutes, guys. Get your questions in, all right? Also, speaking of girlfriends, I know we said we were going to talk about this, man.
Yes.
On the ship, man. Let's talk about relationships. So you and your girlfriend Claire, which I told you earlier, I have been talking to Claire for like a year, man. I had no
Yeah,
idea
man.
you guys were together.
We've
Dude,
been together. Oh, we've been together. We've known each other since 2012. Been
Mhm,
together officially since 2017. So she did the whole boat thing with me. She was terrified when I left
mhm,
because she is so thorough. She did all of her homework and research, and
mhm,
she hears all the stories about what crew life is like. So she was
mhm.
worried about me. But I will say, in terms of relationships, when you're going on a cruise ship, if you are solidified and strong in your relationship, everything's going to be fine. If
It's not
you,
an if. You have to be.
oh yeah,
It's
you
not an
have to
if.
have it.
Oh yeah.
But if you just started a new relationship with someone and you're 3 months in, that ain't going to last on the boat. No, I
Hmm.
hate to. It
No,
it may, but
I agree. But the crazy part is, man, I'm sorry, I can't get over this, man. Me and her have been talking about you since last year, and I had just put the pieces together before we started this live.
I didn't realize she messaged you that many times. Man,
Not no, not that many times, but it was whenever there was an update, whenever I make an update about a specific cruise line and we talk about your cruise line, she would reach out to me, let me know what's going on.
yeah.
And she was like, "Oh, well, X, Y, and Z happened." And I said, "Oh, okay, no way, wow." It was just kind of mind blowing to me that everything that was going on. So it's not we definitely didn't talk often, but whenever she hit me up about stuff that was going on, honestly, it was information that I had never heard of.
Wow.
Especially with each individual, because every cruise line was doing their own thing at the time.
Yeah.
So it's like, honestly, Claire, if you're here, I appreciate this because this is so funny how things go full circle. She's been talking about you the whole time, man. I'm honored to actually meet you because she told me all the stuff you were going through. And I said, wow, this is actually interesting that the pieces are actually put together. This is really
Wow.
cool. Yeah,
Small
yeah, man.
world.
This is a small world. It's a small world, and it's funny how things end up adding up to each other, man. Let's see. So we got another question. Is it easier to get a job? Let's see. Oh, left the slip from it for a second. Is it easier to get a job now, even with less open positions, because a lot more people won't even try to apply for a job, or will there be less jobs when there are less guests? I that's a
That's
good
a.
question, honestly. I mean, do you understand that question? Sorry, I know I was kind of all over the place reading it.
I think so. Well, I think for crew, it's going to be probably harder to get jobs because they'll want returnees first of all that know the game because it's going to be a whole
Mhm.
new game now with all the procedures and everything.
Yeah.
But
Oh yeah.
they're going to start by sailing at maybe 30%, 40%,
Mhm.
50%. So they're
Yep.
going to have a little bit less crew, and I'm
Mhm.
sure the crew that are there are going to have duties that they never had before. Because
Mhm.
like performers might have sanitation duties, right? It's just going to be part of it.
Yep.
There's going to be so much cleaning now, so I think there'll be less because they'll want the older people as opposed to the newer.
I agree. I
Now,
agree 100%. The older, more experienced people for sure.
yeah,
So yeah, the dynamic for cruising is definitely going to change moving forward, but I do think at the end it's going to end up in a better place. It's just going to
yeah,
take a while, man. There's going to be a slowdown in the industry, I think, as it rebuilds itself. But I also believe it creates opportunity. It really does. As I've spoken with you, I do have plans for my channel as well. I would love to help out the industry any way that I can, and
yeah.
I'm sure you love cruising. You love the opportunities that you've been given. I do
Mhm.
think when all this is said and done, there are going to be more opportunities for people that are actually willing to push for it when all this is, cleared up, hopefully.
Yeah, when it comes back, it'll come back with a bang,
Yeah.
but that might take a while, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and get ready to wrap this up. I don't want to keep you too much longer. Like I said, I'm sure you and Claire are going to talk, man. And we got stuff we got to do outside of here. I guess for most of you guys that know, yes, I'm still currently in the United Kingdom, riding out my quarantine.
Hmm.
And yeah, the plan is after 10 days, I have all the documentation. I'll be heading over to France to see my girl. So that's the plan right now. But yeah, guys, if you are still here as we get out and we end this, first of all, Misha, thank you so much for coming on to the live stream, man. I hope you enjoyed it. I really do.
Yeah, man,
Uh,
your content is always really informative, and I appreciate you having me on, man.
no, man, it was an honor. It's nice to again put the pieces together, man. We should have you and Claire come on as like a couple. Whenever you get over, you said you're going to Ireland soon, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna try and get there. As everyone knows, flying right now is ridiculously hard.
Yeah,
I already
yeah.
tried once and was unfortunately denied, but I'm gonna try again and thinking maybe in about 2 or 3 weeks. Right, I'm just
Okay.
getting down from the emotion of it.
Dude, there's so
Of
many changes happening though all the time,
yeah,
man.
yeah,
So many changes, and it's crazy. I post updating everybody what's going on real quick before I get out of here, and you'd be surprised, man. All the negative. There were a lot of negative comments of people feeling some type of way, but I'm like, I tell people I've been social distancing, I've been taking all the precautions, and yeah, things are changing even as I fly in. There was a mistake that was made on the airlines end, which is inevitably ended up making me stuck here. But I'm somebody that believes that love and depending on what's going on, like personal family reasons, there are things that should be considered essential, especially if you're doing so safely,
yeah.
you know.
Man, I
But
agree. We're both in this in the we're both in the same boat, right? Whereas we have partners abroad, right?
mm.
And
Most people don't understand that though. They've
what
never
am I
dealt with
supposed
it.
to do? Like
Yeah.
not see them for a year or two, right?
Well, it's if we knew there was a definite date, I'd be all for it personally. If there was a
Yeah,
definite date, I'd be down for it. But it's with all the restrictions and whatnot. I'm sorry. My girlfriend could potentially be my wife. She could potentially be the mother of my kids one day. I could be terminally ill with some type of illness. Knock on wood. Hopefully, I'm not. But life is short. People don't realize that.
yeah.
And most people that don't understand, let's say international, most people haven't traveled, so they don't understand that there are relationships that go outside of your country of origin, and it's not just a matter of having fun,
I agree 100%,
you
man.
know.
I'm with you on that for sure.
So yeah, sorry, I'm trying to pass the time too. I want to get 12 more likes so we can get out of here. We need to get to 200, guys. If you can hit that like button, we
Hit
got
that like
188
button and
likes.
support.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it, guys. We need 10 more, and then we'll get out of here. I was trying to stop dead at like an hour, but I do want to get those last bit of likes. It's very, very important for the YouTube algorithm.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
let's see, Marie, because I want somebody to weigh in on this travel stuff. Let's see. If you want to travel, travel. Use all the safety precautions. Do not listen to the skeptics and cynics and pessimists who are like dogs stuck on a porch, laying on the nail, howling. Don't they don't budge. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's a weird time in the world, but at the same time, life is also very, very short, and it'll pass you by if you're not careful. Us
Honestly,
as
I think if you're going to travel, like have a good reason. If you're
yeah,
seeing a loved one or something like that, or
yeah.
but
I mean,
take all the necessary steps for
exactly. I'm
sure.
gonna, I'm gonna leave off on this and I'll get out of here, man, because it's time to go. But I did say this is my main point that blows me away. The reason that they're doing these restrictions is because of the numbers that were found out because of the COVID test, right?
For sure.
Why is that same COVID test that's used to justify the reasoning for everything that's going on also not justifiable for us to be okayed to go do something that we should be doing, like maybe going to see a family member or traveling abroad? To me, that doesn't add up. Maybe I'm just weird for thinking about that. But I mean, my take on the situation is if it's enough to put restrictions in, it should be more than enough for me to go get a test, come out negative, and go see my friend or my girlfriend or whatever, given that's actually for a legitimate reason.
Yeah, man,
So,
I'm with you.
you know. Anyway, yeah. So look, we got the likes, man. We are good to go. It wasn't just
Nice.
for the likes, but I do want to put that last little bit of touch because I do think there's just some common misconceptions. People are on there saying there was somebody said they hope I get 10 years in jail for coming to the UK.
What?
And I'm like, for what? I'm legally allowed to be here. Rules have changed since I got here about like where you can stay and whatnot, but I'm allowed to be here. I'm allowed to be in Ireland. France, I have documentation for. So
That's the
anyway,
same with me in Ireland. I mean, I have a work visa, I have a permit, and everything. So,
yeah.
and that's one of the
So
rules. You can enter the country if you have those things, and I do. So,
yeah.
knock on wood. Hopefully
Yeah,
soon.
yeah, exactly. We'll see what happens, man. But look, so we're gonna get out of here. You can stay on for a second, Misha, if you want. I'm gonna go ahead and log out of the live, and we'll go from there. But I appreciate you guys. If you haven't hit that like button on the way out, let's get as many as we can. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for my next upload. You guys take it easy, and thank you.